Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both professional wedding officiants here in the state of New Jersey. And thank you for joining us today. Hey, Celia, how are you doing on this beautiful day?
Oh, it is gorgeous, isn't it? I can't wait to get outside and do something in the dirt.
I know, me too.
Well, we're excited today because we have Erica Casner, founder and CEO of 115 Events. She has a fabulous team, and they can really turn your event ideas into reality, no matter what that occasion is. They will assist in planning and executing any kind of event, really, whether you're planning that dream wedding, a milestone mitzvah, or a corporate event, even that some where you want to impress some people for your company. They will guide you every step of the way, and they'll transform your experience from where you are right now, which is probably anxious and stressed, to where you want to be, which is relieved and excited. So, Erica, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, thank you both so much for having me. This is really exciting. I live in West Orange, and so our
Oh,
company is called,
wow.
yeah, we live in West Orange, but we
Cool.
do weddings and events, kind of mostly in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, but we will go where we are needed. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So 115 is the company that I started years ago, and people always ask, oh, well, how did you get into it? I actually started in sort of outdoor sports, which is kind of strange to say, knowing that I've gotten all the way to weddings and like social events and corporate events. But I tell people all the time, you learn so much when you're in those kind of interesting athletic experiences that really translate into the space that I'm in now.
I bet.
And so I decided to kind of move into weddings and more social events after my own wedding. So my wife and I got married on January 15th, which is where 115 comes from.
Oh,
Oh,
I was
okay. We
gonna
were going to
ask
ask
you.
that.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was like the address. So I love that 115. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I was
very
like,
sweet.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a much better version of, you should have heard some of the original thoughts on the name. It wasn't great.
Sometimes
But
thinking of the name for your company is like the hardest first step, right?
exactly.
But I
But I
love that,
figured,
and it has such beautiful meaning behind it.
yeah, it's really, a really important day in my own life. And so it helps me and the team to remember how important these days are for our clients.
Mhm.
And so
Nice. Yeah.
it's always helpful to kind of tell people, hey, this is how we got started, right? We were in events. My team is amazing. They come from all different places and different spaces. Um, and we all are able to take what we have done and sort of use it in a way that brings creativity to all of our different events. All of our clients are very different, what they're looking for, how they want to celebrate. And it really is awesome for us to be able to help them kind of hear what they want and help them get to it. Because I think, people think, oh, yeah, I planned a backyard barbecue, so I'm an event planner. And we're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. My
like,
favorite is, oh, I planned my friend's wedding and my wedding, and it was great. It was so much fun. It's like, that is not what this business is about.
exactly. My favorite is when clients say, you seem so calm. I'm like, well, yeah, this is my job. And
Yeah.
it's not my
Yeah,
wedding. I'm like, on my wedding day, I was so nervous. I'm like,
Right.
but on your day, we got it.
Right.
you got it covered.
We've been really lucky. We've gotten to do all kinds of events in all kinds of places. We work with nonprofit organizations, helping them with fundraising campaigns and events, whether it's large scale athletic events, walks, rides, things like that. Or, like we say, we do mitzvahs, we do birthdays, weddings, any kind of grouping of people getting together to celebrate something is where we want to be. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's
I,
been
I
really
love your
great.
camp wedding, the one that you just posted at the summer camp. I love that. That's like,
Thank you.
Yeah,
looks
I
like
was
so
looking
much
at
fun.
that blog too. Yeah, your website's quite beautiful.
It really
Thank
is.
you.
With the and it's easy to get around in. It's gorgeous pictures, but yeah, the blog, the camp wedding, that looks like a lot of fun.
It
Thank you.
does.
Yeah, no, that I think we've been very lucky that we have been able to do kinds of different weddings and events, like things that people don't necessarily think of. We were very lucky to meet Kelly and Sarah, who were the brides that got married at that summer camp. And they said, hey, you know, this is what we want. This is the vibe of the weekend. How can we do it here? And our team just worked with them for several months to figure out who were the vendors, what was the vibe, how do you take a place that is meant to house children for several weeks and turn it into a place that has this amazing, wonderful, loving vibe for adults. And so, you know, we worked on even things like getting alcohol permits. We do those types of logistical things for our clients. You know, we do a lot of intercultural weddings. So we have a lot of Indian clients who come to us and they have barats, which is like a pre-wedding almost parade. So we do a lot of animal wrangling, which is not something
Oh
that
my
I think
gosh.
a lot of wedding planners can say that they do.
I would love to have everybody have a barat because you know when they get into the ceremony, they are like, "Are you ready for a wedding?" Yeah. Oh, we've been marching around the parking lot behind an elephant for a while. It's just
Exactly.
isn't it the best? I love it. I love it.
I I will tell you one of my secret goals in life is to have a client who asks me to get them an elephant. It hasn't happened yet.
I
So
can help you with that. I did have one. Yeah.
Oh, did you,
oh,
Celia? I haven't
Yeah.
had that yet.
Yeah.
so
The only one.
exciting.
Usually it's a horse, but you know, the horses are fine too. They you know, they do their job. They're good.
Exactly. They're great.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's so much fun when people come to a wedding and they don't, especially the people who don't necessarily really anticipate what madness could be happening, but it's not chaos. And I mean, as I looked at the camp wedding, I thought, because I used to be a caterer, all I could see is like, well, that could have gone terribly wrong. But you know, and I think people embark with these fantastic ideas and they just really they don't really know how to get them to fruition, which is not their
Mhm.
fault. They've never done it before. It's like they don't know that you need an alcohol permit and you can't have all your signature drinks be drinks that are individually made. You know, it's like little stuff like that that you know that
Yeah.
makes even, you know, a seemingly crazy setting with maybe no amenities, it makes it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, we tell clients we like to work with folks who have all kinds of budgets. I think that's something I've been
Mhm.
noticing recently is people will come and say, "Well, can you work with this budget?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can work with it." Because we really lean into our creativity and we have, you know, a ton of vendors that we work with on a regular basis that we love who, you know, do really great work, but also can help us come up with alternatives. You know, if I say, "Hey, I have a client who wants this, but their budget may not sustain this, what are some options," right? That's when you lean into your caterers and your florists and your entertainers so that they can say, hey, we can do this for that amount. And it's similar to what they're looking for, right? Versus, you know, saying, oh, you have to have a $500,000 budget if you want to have
Yeah,
a nice
yeah,
wedding in New York,
yeah.
right? I
And
think
that's
Well,
that's
that's
my
when
favorite part.
having a coordinator like yourself really comes in
Mhm.
handy. You have you know, a relationship with many of the people you use and you
Mhm.
can work with them. Takes the stress away from the bride and groom trying to you know, talk to everybody about their budget and seeing what they can do for them, you know?
Yeah, I also like to tell people, I'm like, you know, having either a coordinator or a planner really helps, especially when you don't have to fall down that like Google rabbit hole.
right.
I we meet so many people who are like, yeah, we started Googling like venues and there's a lot of places out there. I'm like, yeah, it can be overwhelming,
Yeah,
you know?
it's very overwhelming. And, you know, I feel like people don't really, especially if they're not in like a typical, and typical isn't always you know, it's not always a bad thing. It's just a, you know, a way to classify places. If they're in, you know, a wedding venue that does, you know, 2 or 3 or 5 weddings every single weekend, pretty much in the
Mhm.
same way, they're going to know exactly what to do about everything. But, you know, once you need a canoe for the bar, well, you know, all bets are off, you know?
Exactly. It's like once you tell me you want your cat to walk you down the aisle or, you know,
Yeah.
all kinds of interesting moments. It's like, okay, how do we take
How do
this
we do
idea
that?
that you've had and make it real and make it fun and make it safe?
Yeah.
You know, because my background in event started in events, I'm always thinking of like, what makes sense? What's safe? And like what will be the easiest logistically, right? What makes sense? And so
And what's legal? I gotta
Yeah,
What's
what's
yeah,
legal?
we've been very lucky that we haven't had a request from a client that we couldn't do. I mean, I'm assuming that day is gonna come, but so far
Oh,
we've
yeah, it
stayed
will.
inside
Trust
the
me.
legal boundaries.
Right, right. No, but that's so important. What makes sense, what we can do, what venues are going to fit your,
Mhm.
the couples, what they want to include in it and what makes sense, and things that because of your experience,
Mhm.
they might not have thought of,
Yeah.
I mean, like to put it in the simplest terms as an officiant, when I'm right by the beach, when the people want to include a unity candle on their beach ceremony.
Yeah.
No,
Mm,
no, that's science. No, no, that's
Imagine
not
if the
what.
flame was lit. Yeah, it's one of those things.
it's like, ooh, what
But
can we
that's
do?
like on the
Yes.
simplest terms, we gotta, when you're looking at the big picture, you gotta be, what makes sense, what's gonna work, how are we
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah, but
coordinate this?
I mean, I think, and I'm a little bit biased, but my hope is that everyone makes space in their wedding day for a coordinator, even if
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
can't, have a planner. And just for clarification, we do both of those things. So we
Mhm.
have a team that does coordination for folks who have gotten everything organized. They just might
Yeah.
need someone to look and say, hey, you forgot about this thing, or what happens after this, helps them make sure that there's no holes in their day,
Right.
and then manages everything on site. And then we have folks who are like, you know what? Somebody gave me a ring. I said yes. And now we have no idea what we're doing. And so we help them, with finding a venue, finding all their vendors, building out their day, knowing when to send out invitations and save the dates and when RSVP dates should be and all those kinds of little intricacies. Because people don't realize I think I saw a stat online that it's like takes like 400 hours to plan a wedding from start to finish,
Yeah.
which I
Oh,
was like,
I'm not a bit surprised. I'm not a
I was
bit
like, oh,
surprised.
okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Right.
And for some people, it becomes like a second job,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
And
Well,
it
it
and then,
can become a bit stressful.
never really works. It becomes very stressful, because I
Mhm.
know I've seen it. Celia has seen it, where you have, the bridesmaids or the maid of honor doing the DIY the day of,
Yep.
fixing up the tables and all of that. And then everything tends to run late and become more
Mhm.
stressful. And when you run late, that costs you money.
Yep.
And you're really not saving all that much by not getting a coordinator. I see on your website, it's very well, your website's beautiful, where it
Yep. Right.
explains the full planning service, partial planning, day of coordinator, and then you even have a la carte services as well. So, and
Yeah.
it explains all those services very well. So couples can go to your website.
yeah.
It's 115 events. One is spelled out, one, then the number 15 events. And I will be putting a link. We will be putting a link to your website and the Instagram on our social media sites. But so anyhow, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on with I do see that you guys love diverse couples, fun, non-traditional weddings, and can help coordinate anything from intimate elopements to extravagant events.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. The smallest wedding we've ever done was 10 people, and they got married in Central Park and then did
Love it.
a reception in the Met,
Okay.
which
Mm,
was fun and interesting logistically, all the
cool.
way up to couples who have, 350 guests.
Yeah.
So
I kind of feel like, although I'm finding, and maybe you are too, there's a trend towards simpler weddings, not necessarily less expensive weddings, but just, kind of
mhm.
paring things down to what the couple really, really wants and not what the media tells people you have to have. I'm not going to go, Andrea
Yes.
knows where I'm going with this. Our go-to stupid thing that everybody thinks that they need to have. But, I feel like it's not necessarily a budget issue with couples. It's like we want what we want. We don't want that other stuff that we don't want, like those other 200 people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
And, I feel like a planner, a coordinator, a creative person like you can be really helpful in those situations because there are so many options. How do you pick an option in every category that really expresses your personality, which I'm fine, I think that that was always the thing, but we're
Yeah.
hearing over and over and over again that now that's the primary thing is that people want to express their, it's not just like, well, this is your wedding, this is what you have to do. you know?
Yes. And we really appreciate that. I think you are 100% correct. I think people are leaning more into what are the things that make us happy? What are the things that
Mhm.
tell our story? We've had several weddings where they've had food trucks of different
Yeah.
varieties,
Yeah.
right? And I think
like
that is one thing that's great because it helpful for a budget if it can tell more about your story. But that is something logistically that people don't think about, right? Like the load in and load out times and how big is the
Right.
truck and where is it going to
Right.
go and those types of things, which is why I say if you want anything that does not include getting, married, cocktail hour, and reception all in the same building,
Right.
you definitely want someone who can help you kind of make your way through it. But yeah, we love all kinds of couples.
Right.
I
That's all
think
I
it's just,
like.
I think too that um, with the wealth of opportunities available, we're looking at things like, museums and parks and boats and, all these
Mhm.
different places that present logistical things to navigate, no pun intended, that just aren't even an issue when you're in an all-inclusive venue. Uh,
Yeah.
it's okay, where are the spoons coming from? It's like people have like
Yeah.
the concept of a backyard wedding is a wonderful thing, but somebody's got to order the ice.
My favorite question to ask is, okay, that's great, but where is everyone going to go to the bathroom?
Right. That's
Yes,
what,
that
yeah.
too. Yes,
And that always elicits the,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't have 200 people in your backyard and you only have two bathrooms in your home.
yeah, and that's
Right.
not good. No.
No, you got to get that beautiful trailer that they make nowadays, parking on the
Exactly.
side, right?
Yeah. And that's
We've all
something a
been
coordinator
there.
can help with, is letting you know that they do make really, and it sounds weird to say, they make really pretty, beautiful bathrooms.
The
I think people
executive
hear,
I know, we love
yeah,
them. They have a hanging plant too. It's
yeah,
great.
Yeah,
they're
they're
cool,
very nice. And that's very important at a party, the nice
exactly,
bathroom, right?
very important.
I know. The bathroom and
Yeah.
the ice. Once you have those two things, pretty much everything else will fall into place.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I think the
always
one
the
the one line
tent
I
for
always
bad
say,
weather. Yeah.
Ugh.
I was gonna say bad weather is another one that people don't think about. And they only when you say bad weather, a lot of people think, oh, well, if it rains. I'm like, yeah, but what if it doesn't rain and it's just super windy?
Right.
Yeah.
Like this weekend, the
Like
wind.
this weekend. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. What happens if it's all of a sudden 102 degrees and you thought you were gonna have an outdoor ceremony?
Right. And 100% humidity, or you're on
Exactly.
the
Now you've
beach
got
and
grandma sitting outside sweating. Like, what's going on there?
I
How
know.
do
When
you
they,
how do you prepare for those kinds of things?
well, yeah, when the weather report includes like pregnant people and the elderly
Oh,
shouldn't go outside, it's like you need to kind of plan for that.
yeah. We actually had a wedding last summer during the Canadian wildfires.
Oh
Oh,
my
That
God.
yeah.
out
Yeah.
yeah, outdoors on a boat, and we were tracking like how much smoke was going to happen,
Oh
trying to
my
figure out
God.
if we'd be able to use the exterior of the boat, and if not, what would the plan be for just using the
Wow.
interior. So yeah, it
Right.
was
Goes
Wow.
to
things
show
you never
you.
think you have to worry about.
Yeah,
And then
anything can
you
happen. Things that you don't even expect can happen because I remember those days. Now they were telling people to stay inside. You were looking at
do.
the
Yeah.
briefing, people with asthma stay inside and stuff. Remember
Oh my
that?
Yeah.
gosh. I do. I was driving back from West Jersey. I was out in Sparta where there's only 27 venues to pick from and looking back 287 and not seeing anything in my rearview
Yeah.
mirror. Just nothing but smoke. It's like, oh my gosh. Oh,
And
right. Well,
and it's not like you can say, okay, we'll move the wedding to next week when the fires are done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. It's
No,
like
can't do that.
you got to figure
Well,
out your way through. And that's what we're here for.
you know what? I think one of the great luxury, and it's not really a luxury, but one of the great benefits of having somebody who has done hundreds or thousands of weddings as opposed to like your personal self, maybe you've been to five, is that, I always tend to go towards what is going to make this work and what can derail that. It's like
Mhm.
people planning their weddings don't want to think about things like that, but so many of the things that turn into being real problems can be alleviated by picking somebody who has seen that problem already.
Right.
Mhm.
And knows what to do about it next. And
Yeah.
that's we've got a few venues that we just one of the first questions is, do you have a planner? Do you have, and I'm
Mm.
probably using the wrong term for that, but do you have a go-to
Coordinating.
person, a
Yeah.
point person for that day? Because if you
Mhm.
don't, somebody's going to ask you at some point, why didn't the insert here show up yet? and you're going to have to
Mhm.
find it.
Yeah. I personally love when there's a coordinator or a planner, when a
Yeah,
couple has one, because, they coordinate everything, and we all become the wedding team. And that's my go-to person. I don't need to, if I have a question the day of, I don't need to bother the bride or groom, or even before the day of.
Mhm.
I love having that point person. And also being an officiant, we do a lot of multicultural, interfaith, or
yeah,
even fun themed weddings. And so it's always great to have a coordinator with that as well,
that background. And I find some of my interfaith couples, I'm looking at one of your Indian weddings, very, very pretty, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, couples can get to the point of planning their wedding with two different cultures involved, and they don't even really know what aspects of their personal culture are going to be important to their families because
Mhm.
there maybe weren't raised in a very tight, a family that really, really put an emphasis on that until we get to something as important as a wedding day with all the families there.
Right.
Yeah. Something we find is we like to ask couples, I'm like, okay, what from your religion or your culture is important to you?
Mm,
Right? No, never anyone says, oh, all of it.
yeah.
It's usually, well, I would love to do this thing and I want to do this thing because my parents did it at their wedding. I'm like, okay, cool. And we help them kind of figure out how to blend the two. We also have done several weddings where we've had multiple officiants.
Oh,
Hmm.
So
yes.
Yeah.
having a pundit and a priest in the
Yeah.
same wedding and making sure that they're working together before the ceremony
Right.
to understand who says what when.
Right.
Well, and
I
who's going to file the license? Because in
I
my experience,
exactly.
most of the pundits don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's, and it's
Yes, my
interesting too.
experience.
We have a friend that's a rabbi, and like if you have a rabbi and a priest together doing this, who's gonna do that? Somebody
Mhm.
has to. It's the bottom line.
That's the question we always like to ask. We're like, okay, so who's signing the paperwork?
Mhm.
Right. Because sometimes we have officiants who say, oh, we'll take it for them and put it in the mail. But I'm like, whose name is going on this paper?
Yeah.
Right? Who is the city going to recognize so that, we don't get a letter back in a few months saying that this wedding isn't valid?
Yeah.
We ask those types of questions because I always say, if you don't sign the paper, you've just paid for a really expensive party,
That's true. That's true.
you know?
Well, I think sometimes it's the really kind of unglamorous thing. Everybody loves to talk about flowers and wedding cake, but
Hmm.
nobody wants to talk about who's filing the license, but
Yeah.
or the bathrooms, but
Yep.
those are the things that you shouldn't have to think about, that should just be assumed
Hmm.
because you've got professional people taking care of this. All those things are going to be taken care of. So you can decide fondant or buttercream. You can play with the fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love when we talk to clients about, we make them come up with a packing list. We're like, okay, so end of the event, you're riding the love high. You're like, this was amazing. Where's all your stuff?
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, all the pictures and the decor and the signage that you brought. Where is all of that? They're like, oh, my cousin can get. I'm like, nope, because your cousin's been drinking since 2 o'clock. Who else?
I know.
So we help them figure it out because that's part of what we offer in all of our services is sort of pack up because I never want a couple to, have the best wedding day and then have to think about throwing away garbage, packing up items, going back to the
Yeah.
logistical side of their brain. I'm like, no, you can do logistics tomorrow. Today, you
Yeah.
just enjoy yourself and
Just
your
enjoy
family.
yourself. Yeah,
We
it's
handle all
true.
of those things, whether it's we pack it up and we give it to that one designated person, or we pack it up and we take it to your hotel, what have you. It's our job at the end of the day to make sure that our clients are really happy and have a great experience.
Yeah.
And it's not anywhere specifically written, but we are sort of therapists in that way as well.
Mm,
We protect them from the chatty aunt who won't stop talking to them and they haven't eaten. You know, I've had clients who've said, you know what, I really don't like this thing. And but my mom wants me to do it. And I say, okay, well, tell her I said you couldn't.
Yeah.
They're like, well,
that's
what do
it.
you
I'm
mean? I'm
happy
like,
to, blame it on us. Blame
yeah,
it
I
on
tell
us.
them, I'm like, after you're married, you have to live with those people for the rest of your life, but I'm leaving.
Yeah, we're
So
never
put
going to
it
see
on
him again.
me, make it my fault. you
That's
know,
right.
they're like, we
Right.
can
And
do
the
it.
art of gracefully getting them away from the person chatting too much so they can go
Exactly.
eat. There's an art behind that to be pleasant, but yeah, this is what's going to
Yeah,
happen now. Yeah.
exactly. You know,
Yes. Yes.
it's always great, but we tell them, that's one of the added benefits that we don't charge you for.
Right. The Saurus control. That's what we call it.
Exactly.
It's like, oh no, that sounds great. And I love your website too. Very interesting, great pictures. And I tend to recommend people that don't tell clients what they have to do. They make it possible for them to do what they like within reason. I tell them too, it's like,
Yeah.
if you have something totally ghastly in mind, we're going to try to talk you out of it.
Yes.
Because, I don't want
Yeah.
that thing to be Thanksgiving conversation for all the years of
Mhm.
your life.
Yep.
Do you remember when she did that? It's like, I don't want that.
Exactly. I'm not going to let you wear stripes and polka dots. Like,
No,
Yeah.
no, we're not. No, no
we'll point
scavenger
out,
hunts
we'll
on the
point it
beach.
out.
Just like, please, you might maybe later in the evening when some people won't remember it.
Exactly. We do have couples that come to us and that, when we're meeting them, they're like, oh, so tell us, what's your aesthetic? And the first few times it happened, I was like, I don't know if
What?
I understand what they mean. But then, there are some planners out there who you look at their weddings and they all have a similar feel or a similar vibe. And I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
clients, I'm like, my aesthetic happened on my wedding day and it was beautiful. My job is to take what you want or what you think you want and make it into a reality. It's not for me to say, actually, it's 2024, you should do this because
Right.
Vogue says this, Andy,
That's the
right? No.
trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I
I know.
read
Like,
it on the knot. They said this was the trend. So we're all doing muted colors. Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, if you want hot pink, let's figure out hot pink.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know.
You take their aesthetic and make it happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
sounds
I
great.
want to tell our listeners that again, we will put the link to 115 events on our social media sites, as well as the link to their Instagram. Our social media sites are all New Jersey Wedding Podcasts. So you can easily click on their links and see all the beautiful weddings for that 115 events and other events that they have done. You have a great staff, a beautiful website. You even have an easy to button that people can click on to make an appointment to schedule a meeting with you. So yeah, real nice and easy to get around. And thank you so much for joining us today, Erica.
Thank you
Thank
both for having me. This
Oh,
was
thanks. It was great.
wonderful.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Hopefully
And
we can
hope
work
to
together soon.
Yeah, hope to see
Yeah.
you in the 2024-2025 wedding season.
And beyond.
Same.
Okay, bye.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I really enjoyed that. Erica,
Oh, I did too.
yeah, 115 events. I love her energy. Very, very positive, energetic. She makes me smile talking to her,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good for her. And I love the name of her company, 115 Events, now that I know that she was married on January 15th. And
Yeah.
she uses
I
that,
like
and
it.
it reminds her of how what a special event it is.
How
So
monumental it is. Yeah, and I thought the fact that she has a sports background, it might at first glance not seem like it's transferable, but when you think about, the nature of like sports events, the timing is critical. You've got a whole lot of people who don't necessarily know what to do next. Not the athletes, they always know what to do, but like crowds and it kind of leads into that discussion about the not so glamorous parts of weddings, like where do people go to the bathroom and who bought the ice?
yeah,
And, I think that sometimes to have somebody focus like a professional like her and us too, to focus on things that are not necessarily so glamorous, like who signed the license and where is it going.
right.
It lets the couple really think more about the fun parts of the day, think about the things that they want to include or highlight that's really going to make that day expressive for them because they don't have to worry about yeah, who brought the ice. Yeah.
Right, right. You definitely, I think couples really need to think about getting either a full planner or at least the day of coordinator. And we talk about that. Their work is more than the day of, the days leading up
Oh
to.
yeah, absolutely.
If
Yeah.
you're having a large gathering, It's very important, okay, because of the scale of your gathering. But then
Mhm.
also, because we talk a lot about micro weddings or smaller events, even if you're having just 30 or 40 of your closest loved ones,
Mm,
but you want to make it magical, that is also the time to
yeah,
have a coordinator or a planner to find that perfect space and make that small,
yeah.
shindig a magical event too. So
Well,
perfect.
I think we touched upon it. I didn't mean to cut you off. We
No,
touched upon it there with, people, couples having a wider range of places to pick from. It's not just what people traditionally think of as wedding venues, which, those are absolutely fine venues and sites for some people. But, once you start thinking about places that don't typically do weddings, like museums and galleries and fields and, hiking trails and places that are not necessarily used to having the amenities that people expect from a wedding. And, as people start to pick things that more express their personality, it really becomes important for, that person to kind of wrangle all the details so you can just enjoy it.
right.
You can be there at, sunset on a mountaintop someplace, but, somebody has still not to touch too much on the portisans, but somebody's still like they have a place for you to go to the bathroom.
Right.
You know?
I like the way you just said express their personality. And us as officiants, we often talk about personalizing the ceremony, even if you want the traditional, I love the unity candle or I love the sand ceremony. Well, let's take that a step further and personalize it a little bit about you guys. And the way she
Yeah.
touched on, what is your vibe or whatever, what is your talking about getting to know the couple and finding out what they want. And
Yeah.
then, because of her background, her knowledge, her experience, and
Mm,
it's her job, she can tell you what venues or spaces are going to work
right.
best with your vision and what you want. So
Yeah.
you start with that, personalize it. It's not all weddings are cookie cutter. You have to personalize it and what means the most to you. What are you looking, what's the feel you want? And everybody's different. Some might want that, the big, elegant, I want that elegant traditional feel, and
Mhm.
others want that, the camp. We want to be like we're at camp,
I love that. I love that one. Heard
Yeah.
that newest blog post. I thought that was fantastic. I love that.
Right.
But
And a lot
I
of times with the multicultural or interfaith, they don't know what they want to
right.
include in there. And in fact, sometimes with officiating, I give them, or you, right? We give them ideas. Oh, I've done that one before. There's a great prayer that goes here, or there's this element, and they'll go, oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And they go back to their family and ask, and they come back and they say, what you suggested is right on.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times people too, couples have, this idea that they want to express their personality, but they don't exactly know how. And, having a planner who's done 20 weddings where someone was Hindu and someone was Jewish can, along with us, I mean, we're talking about the ceremony part alone, but they can help you figure out what's the best way to express your personality and do make the things come to life for people who maybe half of your audience has never been to a Hindu wedding.
Right.
Maybe half of them have never been to a Jewish wedding. And, I picked that example because that seems to be a combination that we're working with a lot right now. But, I think it's just so much fun for people to be able to see something that they might never have seen before. But at the same time, it's really good to have a pro like her that, you know, if you're having if you're having an Indian wedding, you are having a barat.
Yeah.
And who is going to know how to arrange that for you except somebody who's done that? Maybe, okay, she maybe needs an elephant permit. We can help her with that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
She
fine. Don't
certainly
don't
sounds
panic.
like she enjoys the challenge of that and looking back and being like, you know what I
I
did this
know.
weekend? I love that, right?
You should have seen that elephant. Wow, it was like fantastic. And but it's fun because for everybody at the end of that wedding, you've taken all these disparate things, maybe a site that is not necessarily built for 100 people having a party, and added all these cultural elements, plus the things that, inevitably there's things that the families want and that the couple wants, and how do you put that all together so at the end people walk away thinking that is the only way that that could have happened.
Right.
That is, we knew it happened, we don't know how it got there, we don't care, but that was fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that Erica of 115 Events is the perfect example of, we think of the coordinator there being like, they always have the Tide stick and the safety
Yes.
pins. They know how to bustle your suit, but also it's beyond those details. They're there for, they know they have the clips for the hair in case this goes wrong or that happens. So they're
Right.
set up for those kind of maybe obvious type things, but beyond that, I love on her website how she says, your love story is what inspires us, and we're here, to craft, to help you with a wedding that perfectly reflects your personalities and
Yeah.
celebrates your unique journey together. That says it all. So it's beyond the, saving you when you need the bobby pin,
Yeah, no, it's shaping the whole thing so that it can happen the way that you expect it to happen,
and
you know?
stress free. I think that's the couple's dream, right?
Yeah, no, I thought that was really helpful and really fun too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So, well, thank you guys for joining us today on New Jersey Wedding Podcast. And we have a lot of other great guests coming up, a lot of venues coming
Mm.
up, ceremony elements. So remember to hit the follow and subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And we like to hear from you. If you have any special requests for us, a venue or a vendor you would like to hear us interview or hear us review, or if you have questions or advice, you can contact us through the social media. And of course, the email, it's all on the social media, New Jersey Wedding Podcast, or our website, New Jersey Wedding Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks a bunch. Bye.
Bye-bye. This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey Wedding Officiating Services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.